So, yeah, and as mentioned, I'm Bryan Williams from Bounteous, and I am in Seattle. So, Bullseye. You might have guessed why I came up with that name. Target, Bullseye, and just in case there's other products out there called Bullseye, I added the ATX. ATX is for Adobe Target Extras. So all these tools are geared around Adobe Target solutions. And inside Adobe ATX is Bullseye ATX is my Bullseye AEM, which is the two features I'm going to talk about this afternoon, whatever it is for you. So these are meant to enhance the capabilities of AEM with Target, and they're just a couple. They're integrated screens inside Target, and they do a couple different things related to personalization. They are open source. Will be very shortly, and just to put this out there, they are not an official Adobe product, so they're my own little projects and not part of the Adobe official ecosystem. So keep that in mind. The first one is for anti-flicker. So if anybody has ever dealt with Target and front-end personalization for that matter, it doesn't have to be Adobe Target. It could be whatever front-end personalization you might be using. There's been a problem come up with clients that is sort of a bad practice or annoyance called flicker. So it's, like I said, not just Adobe Target, but front-end personalization. So your site content's loaded, it comes up, and then your personalization content from Adobe Target is loaded, and it replaces something right in front of the user. So most commonly with like an image swap, replace an image, but also could be text, it could be colors, it could be anything that gets replaced when your Adobe Target loads over your website. Here's a little example. So on the left, we've got you might be familiar with this demo site, the Adobe Weekend page. And on the left, we've got this nice little lake that comes up. It says camping in Western Australia. And about, half a second, whatever, later, depending on your site speed, it's replaced with this little picture of a boat and the bridge and says boat rentals on Lake Union. And the user might be like, wait, I was interested in that camping in Australia. I'm going to Australia. What was that? Where'd it go? Yeah, that can be annoying. So there's a few things you could do. Well, first of all, you can live with it. And sometimes teams choose to do this and just forget about it. And okay, yeah, it's a bad experience, but whatever. We don't want to touch our site, right? So that's one thing. You can load Target synchronously, and this actually would mean you're probably going to be loading your tag manager synchronously as well with all those libraries that your tag manager might be loading. And that's going to slow down your site from loading because it's going to be blocking and not really very good experience. You can pre-hide the whole page. You might want to cover it with a spinner overlay. It's a little nicer. And if you know the personalized components that you're going to be targeting, maybe you can do something a little better. And that's what we're going to see. This does technically work with ATJS and WebSDK, which is Alloy.js. So the newer stuff is covered in the code, and it recognizes that. It is authourable, so when you make these changes, there's no code deploy. That's the nice thing about it. And you can load it remotely or embed it on the AIM page. So we'll see that in a bit, the differences there. And you can handle specific domains, paths, components separately. So if I want to load this on only certain paths of my site, maybe if you're rolling out Target gradually in a large organization, you might want to just restrict it to certain paths. Because one thing you don't want to do is load your anti-flicker script when you're not loading Target, because then it'll wait for the specified timeout and before it shows your page. So we can restrict it to those things. There is pre and post customizable scripts, and we'll see that when we look at the feature. You can have code for both before and after the flicker. And there is minification available. And if you have dealt with this, you might have gone across the code that Adobe provides for anti-flicker. Basically, it just hides the body of the page while Target loads, and then you unhide the page, and that's it. Pretty simple. You see the code here is quite simple, nothing too complex. The code after I've wrote this feature is probably about 10 times the size. Well, it depends on how much you add, but with minification, you keep that down, of course. And if you want to use the anti-flicker, then you can either embed it, like I said, or call it remotely. So if you're embedding it, you can use this Sling model that comes with it, the anti-flicker config script, and you just put that as high on the page as possible. If you want to do it remotely, or maybe your site is using this, is not on AEM, then you use the remote snippet here, which just calls the flicker.js servlet. You want to make sure that that is a synchronous call, though, so that it gets a chance to load before anything else, but it should be very, very small, very light. So, and I'm actually going to go through all the slides before I start doing any demos, just to keep it simple for both features that I'm talking about today. So the next one is CFREX. This is short for Content Fragment Recommendations. And if you've ever used Target recommendations, let alone Target, basically what it's for is, well, personalization. Of course, Target is for personalization, but it's more for like, if you had a product or a user checked out with a product, or they viewed a product or bought a product, we might want to show similar products, right? You get to your shopping cart and they say, hey, you might be interested in these things. So that's what recommendations is for. It's all based around comparing, you like this, you might like that. You can create sophisticated criteria out of the box, test and optimize. There's velocity templates that you can use for the markup. So once you've got your, once your recommendations are produced, you either might want to produce, have an HTML template that you can plop on the page into a little strip that has your, might be interested in products, or you can return JSON. So maybe you want to, we've done this before, is create components like React that are specialized, that know how to call the API, Target API, get back a JSON, and then render itself based on whatever recommendations are returned in that payload. And then, of course, there's analytics reporting built into Target. Now, to use recommendations, of course, you need to get some products into Target recommendations, and there's a few different ways to do that. The first one there is the CSV file. So you put the CSV file somewhere on an FTP, URL, whatever, and you can set up a feed to periodically pull that CSV file. So of course, you have some system that goes and updates that CSV file with your products, and then Target will pull that periodically and upload it to our recommendations. Kind of clunky, you got to manage this file, and then you got to do polling and whatnot. Google product feed is a similar thing. So it's an official Google format in XML, but it's also got to be put on an FTP server and pulled. You can also use the analytics classifications, but those have a 24-hour delay, so not necessarily the best option either. You can also do page view, so you can put metadata on your pages, assuming all of your products have pages. That might not work too well. For example, if you got a hotel and you've got rooms for that hotel, well, I probably don't have a page for every room in my hotel, right? So, but I want those rooms to be products, and I want them to match, based on some attributes or whatever. Maybe if I booked a room for a hotel, then I might want to show the hotel of that room in on the homepage next time the visitor comes there, so they might want to book the same hotel. And then there's the Target Recommendations API, and this is powered through Adobe I/O, and this is actually what's powering the features that I'm going to show in Bullseye. And content fragments. So I don't know how many of you have used content fragments, basically they are structured data in AEM. So AEM doesn't really have a database per se. So we need somewhere to store data that isn't necessarily pages or assets or whatnot. So content fragments come into play here. We can create content fragment models, which are basically schemas that describe the data that we want to store. There's several different data types. You could have fields or text area, calendar, select, all your typical little widgets that you can use for collecting the data. And then when the content author can go in and fill out content fragments for whatever data it might be. There's also GraphQL API on top of this that was added in recent years by Adobe, so it can be queried that way. And then there's exportable to target offers. So you can export content fragments now, and this is very recent. You can export content fragments to target offers, so they can be used sort of like a JSON offer in Target. They can be used in your activity, but this is different from exporting to recommendations as products, like I'm going to show. And once again, we're going to be exporting content fragments to target recommendations as products. You can also just because target recommendations have certain fields that you don't need to upload, but they're out of the box predefined. So like your ID, your name, message, category, brand, stuff like that are predefined. And then you can have 100 more custom fields. So things that are more proprietary to your products or to your business. We also have sling model support for this. So if I want to map something that's more dynamic to a field, and I'll give an example of this later, then I can use a sling model and wire it up and do it that way. I can do manual and event export based. So what that means is I can go in and I can export these content fragments to Target manually just by clicking a button, and then it will go through and get all the content fragments for a content fragment model, and it will send those up to Target. And I can do event-based exports, which is when you activate a content fragment, it will export it to Target. When you deactivate a content fragment, it will remove it from Target. So we don't want anything in Target, right, that hasn't been published. And then again, it's utilizing the recommendations API of Adobe I/O. And you will be able to view reports, but this is still being worked on because, of course, you might want to see, okay, what ran last night, what content fragments got uploaded to Target, why are they there, that sort of thing. All right, so let's switch over to a little bit of demo. This, okay. All right, so when you go into AEM, to get to Bullseye, go to Tools and Bullseye AEM. And so you've got the two different features here. Anti-flicker configs, let's go to that first. You'll see I've already got a list of configurations that I've created. If I go into Bullseye Demo 1, so we've got a name. This is just an indicator to keep track of what this configuration does. It doesn't really have any effect on the outcome of the logic, but it's there. You can also put a description. So then you put a path regular expression. So this will determine which paths this is going to run on my site. You could put, just a wildcard expression to run on all paths, but I've got a specific page here on the weekend site. I've also got a domain that says I only want to run on this domain. CSS selectors, so I only have one here. You could have multiple to target different components. This one is simple. It's just going to target the body. Staging identifiers, you don't have to use these, but they're there if you want to divide these up. So I can call the service for anti-flicker and put a selector in that URL, so .qa.js, and it will only pull the configurations that I have specified that selector for. And then this is, if I open up look at the anti-flicker JavaScripts that are available. Right now I have 3. So hide section, We got a skeleton overlay and a spinner overlay. And then the timeout at the bottom, I've got 10 seconds here. This is what is going to determine, okay, target hasn't loaded or something's gone wrong. So go ahead and undo and show the components after this amount of time. So we go back to here and go to the gear icon. This is our settings. This is where not quite. It's going through and it can actually hide different components individually. But as you remember on the first one, we got set to body. So here's the skeleton overlay, just more JavaScript code. There is a pre-flicker and a post-flicker JavaScript. So this runs before target, and this one's going to run after target's done. And then one more is a spinner overlay. So we're going to see those in action. So let's start by just seeing what this looks like without any anti-flicker configurations. So you see we're loading the page. Okay, we've got the little lake in the Australia. Oh, there it's gone. So, and this image takes a little while to load, unfortunately, but you saw the one thing and you're seeing the other, just like we saw in the slides. So that's not good. So let's go back here. Let's go to demo 1, put in properties. Let's enable it, save, and then publish config and settings. So everything gets, all the configs and the settings all get published. Target's ready. You never saw the first image or the first text. It just goes straight to the boat rentals on Lake Union. So, that works, but we're hiding the whole page for the user. Probably not the best experience either. So let's disable that one. Let's try the next one, Bullseye Demo 2. In this one, we've got the spinner overlay selected. Let's enable it. Let's publish it. Okay, back here. Let's try this again. Okay, we got a nice little spinner that's kind of covering up the page, kind of hides it a little bit, right? Not a little nicer than just a blank screen. At least something's happening. But we've got, the semi-transparent overlay that's kind of hiding everything. It makes it a little less confusing, a little less likely that they saw the original stuff. It's not perfect, so let's disable that one. And let's try the third demo. So this is the one that has a skeleton. Properties, there we go. Enabled, close, and publish. All right, let's try this one. This isn't perfect, but we got a nice little placeholder skeleton here. Instead of hiding the whole screen, we're targeting that one specific component instead of the whole body, and it's a little nicer experience. Okay, so that is the anti-flicker features. Let's go back to the main menu and let's go into CF-Rex. The first screen, this different conf folders, so typically choose whatever one your content fragment models are loaded in. So I've got Bullseye AEM here, and a couple screens here to choose from. So if I go, first of all, let's take a look at Target. So this is Adobe Target, and in here it says one product, but I don't know, it's not under any categories, so I can't see it. But we pretty much don't have anything in here as far as products yet. For entities. If I take a look at the target entities list, so this is basically the same view as an Adobe Target, only in AEM, and it only shows it's only going to show the products that were uploaded via the Bullseye. So it's filtering just the products that are Bullseye. So let's go back here. And let's go to field mappings. So you see we've got a bunch of mappings already set up here. If I go to create, add mapping, this is going to filter. It's only going to let me choose the this is the content fragment model. So there's only one content fragment model that hasn't been mapped. It's called event. I could choose that and go in here, and I can choose whatever paths my content fragments I intend for them to be under. You don't have to, but it makes it easier for searching, and you can limit which content fragments you necessarily want to go to target that way. So select that one. For name, so when I do this drop down, I got name, and this is pulling from the content fragment model, different fields. So I could choose name. For description, maybe just or message description. Category, so category on my content fragment model is a tag. So I can choose either tag title or tag name. I'm going to do tag name. And then this is where the Sling model comes in. So I can, if I go here, here's a snippet of code that a demonstration of how you can use a Sling model to get a field to show up in the dropdown. You have to annotate it with this content fragment Sling model, which defines what the model path is for this Sling model, and so it can match up to a content fragment model. And then I've got a method that calculates the ID dynamically using the UUID library and the path of the resource. You also need to extend structured content fragment and then set that as your adapters. So if I go back here, so I can choose ID, and not on this one. Let's go back to hotel. Let's take a look at that. And you'll see I have UUID of hotel model Sling model. So this is pulling from that Sling model, picking it up, and I can dynamically set that value when I export these content fragments to Target. So let's do that. So I'm going to take hotel, and I'm going to do push to Target, push. So it's going to take all the content fragment model, or all the content fragments of that content fragment model under these directories, and it's going to push them up to Target based on the mappings that I've defined here. So if we go to Target, you'll see that there are still no products there. It actually takes a little while for products to get up to Adobe Target recommendations. They're kind of stuck in limbo for a little while, but that's why I've got this screen here for the entities. So back through here, if I look at Target entities list, you see that those 3 products are listed here. So this is using Adobe I/O again to pull the list of products that I've actually uploaded to recommendations that aren't showing up in recommendations quite yet. They will eventually. I can also select one, and I can do delete, and that will delete it from recommendations. So I can do that all right here without going to Adobe Target, and I can do it. I can see in more real time what has been technically uploaded through Bullseye anyway. The other thing is I can go to, let's go to our assets. Oops. Files. So Bullseye AM and content fragments. Let's. I guess I already did this. Which one did I delete? I think I deleted this one. So I can select this, and if I publish it, see it's queued for activation. Oops, not that one. Gotta go to the actual content fragment. Click publish. So when I publish it, it's actually going to trigger a upload to Adobe Target automatically for just that content fragment right there that I selected. So this is going in, and it's going to go get the mapping for this content fragment based on the content fragment model it's based on. It's going to go get that mapping so it knows which fields to map to. And then it's going to send the content fragment, but it has to go get that mapping first to know what to set the fields to, basically. And then if I go back to here, you see I've got all 3 again. So the Sling Hotel was actually uploaded because I activated the content fragment to publish. And again, you want to make sure, okay, we want the content fragments that are uploaded should have been published. They should be live, right? So that makes sense. From here, I can, like I said, I can delete content fragments and whatnot. Okay. Let me go back to my last slide. Okay. So this code is, well, will be available shortly. There's a couple things I am fixing and cleaning up and preparing for it to be live. This is the GitHub repo that it is sitting at. You can go take a look at the code probably by the end of the week and play around with it. If you do have any feedback, I'm open to criticism, of course. You can even do a pull request if you really want to, or just send feedback of features that might be useful to you, or how it's working for you, or what you think. Here's a couple other links to Target recommendations if you haven't used that much. Recommendations API and Adobe Console and content fragments. By the way, all the images used in these slides were by me. So I think with that, I am open to questions if there are any. Again, so bummed that I'm not able to to be there, but this is the next best thing, I guess.
All right, thanks, Bryan. We got just one question, and how is it like the flicker prevention? Isn't it destroying the LCP because it has to wait for the slow Adobe Target?
Yeah. So that's the whole point of it, right? Is there is a little bit of a wait. There's a little bit of blocking, and we don't. During that blocking, we want to have the best experience possible. So blocking the screen is not necessarily the best option. Or just blanking it out. So what I've tried to do here is add some capabilities that can be done right on the fly. So I can go over to Target. I can set up my activity, and I know what component I'm targeting. I can go over here to AEM, and I can set up these Flickr configurations to do whatever. I can actually add code. So those three options that I showed there, aren't the end all be all. I can add whatever code I need to make it a better user experience. But sometimes, yeah, there could be. If you're doing the remote, there's going to be a couple hundred milliseconds probably of downloading the script, and it needs to be done synchronously. So we've had complaints about that. I mean, that's just a personalization thing in general. It's hard to get around. If you're doing the embed, it's much less, obviously, because everything's embedded into the page when it's downloaded. So it helps with the lag, I guess. But yeah, that's what this attempts to solve is the and I don't know. Target hasn't really been that slow for us. I guess it depends how much stuff you have configured in your tag manager and all that. It's usually pretty snappy. The delivery call is pretty snappy. If we're talking milliseconds, so milliseconds, of course, add up. A couple hundred here, a couple hundred there. But the alternative, is to either live with it or just blank out your screen and not show the user anything until they're done. Until it's done.
Thanks for the explanation, Bryan, and thank you for having you on the virtual stage. I'm sure would be much nicer on the real stage, but I guess there's always a next year. Thanks for having us.
Yes, I hope to be there next year, and everybody have fun with the rest of the conference. Looks like a good turnout, so wish I was there. Thank you.